The small alien ship floated silently through the empty darkness of space. Its curved, shimmering hull reflected the distant stars as it moved on its regular patrol route. Inside, the crew of the Merivian exploration vessel Stellar Harmony went about their daily tasks. Captain Kyleth sat in his command chair, his thin, blue-skinned fingers tapping gently on the armrest. His large eyes blinked slowly as he watched the main screen. The Merivians were known across the galaxy as peaceful explorers and traders. Their slender bodies and delicate limbs had evolved on a world with low gravity and a calm environment. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy patterns," said Science Officer Lyrics. Her voice was soft and musical, typical of the Merivian species. They appeared to be coming from Sector 87 Delta, an uncharted region. Kyleth turned his chair toward her station. "Natural phenomenon? No, sir. The pattern is too regular." Lyrics's long fingers moved quickly over her control panel. "It appears to be ... distress signal." The captain's antenna twitched with concern. "Can you identify the source?" After a moment of silence, Lyrics looked up with wide eyes. "It's Dalthan, sir. The signal is from the Dalthan Confederacy." A hush fell over the bridge. The Dalthans were a respected species, known for their advanced medicine and peaceful diplomatic efforts. Their pink-skinned, four-armed bodies made them excellent surgeons and artists. "Put it on screen," ordered Kyleth. The main viewer flickered to life, showing a pink-skinned alien. Its face was marked with stress lines, and one of its forearms was wrapped in a bloody bandage. "This is High Chancellor Verdix of the Dalthan Confederacy," the alien said, its voice shaking. "Our worlds are under attack by the Vorax Collective. They came without warning, assimilating our outer colonies. Our defenses are failing. If anyone receives this message, please ... help us." The message ended with a burst of static, then began. "To repeat, the Vorax," whispered Navigator Tellen from her station. Her pale blue skin seemed to grow even lighter. "The hive mind." Kyleth knew of the Vorax. Most species in the galaxy did. They were a collective consciousness that spread like a disease, absorbing other life forms into their network. They had been quiet for centuries, contained to a distant arm of the galaxy. "How old is this message?" Kyleth asked. "Based on signal degradation, approximately 7 solar cycles," Lyrics replied. 7 days. Not much time if the Dalthans were already losing their outer colonies. "We must report this to the Galactic Council immediately," said Kyleth. "Set course for the nearest relay station." 3 days later, the Stellar Harmony orbited the massive space station that served as the headquarters for the Galactic Council. Captain Kyleth stood before the council members, who represented 12 of the major species in the known galaxy. "The Dalthans need immediate military assistance," Kyleth explained. "But our nearest defense fleet is 2 months away at maximum speed. The Vorax will have consumed half the Dalthan systems by then," said Council Member Jurith, a tall, crystal-like being who represented the Merivian government. "What about the Krell?" suggested another council member. "Their battle fleets are formidable." "The Krell are dealing with an internal rebellion," replied Jurith. "They cannot help." Silence fell over the council chamber. The situation seemed hopeless. Then Ambassador Zillith, a younger Merivian with unusually dark blue skin, spoke up. "There is one option we haven't considered." All eyes turned to him. "The humans," he said simply. Murmurs of surprise and concern spread through the chamber. "The Deathworlders?" asked a council member with obvious alarm. "They are barely known to us. They've only achieved faster-than-light travel in the last decade." "Yes," said Zillith, "but their world Earth is classified as a death world for a reason. The conditions there are extreme by our standards. High gravity, wide temperature variations, dangerous radiation levels, toxic elements in their atmosphere. The humans have evolved to survive conditions that would kill most of us instantly. Kylith understood what Zilith was suggesting. You think they could fight the Vorax where we cannot? I believe they might be our only hope, Zilith replied. Their world has made them naturally resistant to many of the techniques the Vorax use to subdue other species. After much debate, the Council agreed to send a message to Earth requesting help. Ambassador Zilith volunteered to make first contact with the humans personally. On Earth, in the International Space Command headquarters in Houston, Navy Captain Lavra West stared at the strange message on her screen. She had been called to an emergency meeting with Admiral Gary Peterson and a team of scientists. We've confirmed it's not from any Earth source, said Admiral Peterson. The signal came from just beyond Saturn's orbit before our deep space relay. Picked it up. Lavra read the message again. It claimed to be from something called the Galactic Council and requested urgent assistance for a species under attack. Is this a joke? She asked. We don't think so, replied Alan Murphy, the lead scientist. The signal contains data unlike anything we've seen before. The language patterns are completely alien, but the translation matrix they included is helping. US understand it. So, aliens are real, and they're asking for our help. Lavra tried to keep her voice steady despite her shock. That appears to be the case, said Admiral Peterson. And they're offering to send a representative to meet with. US in 3 days. Lavra looked around the room at the stunned faces of her colleagues. Why us? Why Earth? We're not exactly a major military power compared to what must be out there. Samantha Powell, another scientist, spoke up. According to the message, it's because of where we live. They call Earth a death world, a planet with conditions so harsh that any species that evolves, there would be. Well, naturally tough. They think we're tough? Laura almost laughed. Apparently, said Admiral Peterson. And they need that toughness for something they're facing. He stood up straight, his decision made. Captain West, I'm assigning you to command our newest vessel, the USS Defiant. If these aliens are legitimate, you'll be humanity's first official representative. Within 48 hours, Laura found herself aboard the Defiant with a hastily assembled crew of Earth's best soldiers, scientists, and diplomats. The ship had been under development as Earth's first true deep space military vessel, equipped with the latest weapons and defenses. As the massive engines powered up, Lavra looked at her bridge crew. Engineer John Miller was checking systems with his team. Communications Officer Nicole Bennett was studying the alien language patterns. Security Chief Kevin Clark was running final checks on the ship's weapons. None of them knew what waited for them in space. None of them realized that to the rest of the galaxy, humans weren't just another species. They were terrifying creatures born on a planet that would kill most alien life in seconds. All systems ready, Captain, reported Daniel Hayes from the tactical station. Laura took a deep breath. Take us out, Lieutenant. Let's go meet our new friends. As the Defiant left Earth's orbit, Ambassador Zilith watched from a small cloaked ship near Jupiter. He had never seen humans up close before. Soon he would meet these Deathworlders face to face, and he couldn't help but feel afraid of what they might be like. May the stars have mercy, he whispered to himself. We're about to introduce the galaxy to its most terrifying saviors. The USS Defiance slowed as it reached the edge of Earth's solar system. Captain Laura West stood on the bridge, her hands clasped behind her back as she stared at the view screen. Jupiter's massive form hung in the distance, a swirling giant of gas and storms. Sensors are picking up a small vessel decloaking at coordinates 227 MARK4, reported Lieutenant Daniel Hayes from the tactical station. His fingers moved quickly over the controls. It's not matching any known design. Laura nodded. This is it. First contact. She pressed a button on her chair. All senior staff to the bridge. Security teams on standby. Within minutes, the bridge filled with officers. Dr. Samantha Powell arrived first, her eyes wide with excitement. Engineer John Miller followed, wiping his hands on a rag. Security Chief Kevin Clark entered last, his hand resting near his sidearm. "The alien vessel is hailing us," said Communications Officer Nicole Bennett. Her voice was steady despite the historic moment. "On screen," ordered Laura Dott. The view screen flickered, then showed the interior of a ship unlike anything they had seen before. The walls curved in strange angles, and soft light seemed to come from everywhere. In the center stood a thin, blue-skinned being with large, oval eyes. It wore flowing robes of silver material. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the alien sighed. Its mouth moved strangely around the English words. "I am Ambassador Zillith of the Meridian Conclave and representative of the Galactic Council. Thank you for answering our call." Lavra stepped forward. "I'm Captain Lavra West of the United Earth Space Command. We received your message and came to help." Zillith bowed slightly. "Captain, with your permission, I would like to come aboard your vessel with a small delegation. We have much to discuss." An hour later, Lavra and her officers waited in the ship's conference room. The air circulation systems hummed loudly as they adjusted to new settings. "They're requesting lower gravity and a special atmospheric mix," explained Dr. Powell, checking readings on her tablet. "Their biology is very different from ours." The door slid open, and Ambassador Zillith entered with 2 other Meridians. All 3 wore thin masks over their mouths and moved carefully in the human environment. Behind them came 2 larger aliens with pink skin and 4 arms, dolphins. Lavra noticed how the aliens moved with obvious effort. Earth's standard gravity, which she barely noticed, seemed to weigh heavily on their slender frames. "Thank you for accommodating us," said Zillith, lowering himself carefully into a chair. "Even with these supports, your ship's conditions are challenging for us. Are you in pain?" asked Dr. Powell with concern. "We are managing," replied one of the dolphins. "I am Medical Director Narration. The gravity here is 3 times what we are accustomed to." Kevin Clark shifted in his seat. At 6'4" with broad shoulders, the security chief towered over the aliens. "If our environment is so difficult for you, why seek our help specifically?" Zillith's large eyes blinked slowly. "Because what is difficult for us is precisely what makes you valuable, Chief Clark." He gestured to the Meridian beside him. "This is Science Officer Trellix. He will explain." Trellix placed a small device on the table. It projected a holographic image of the galaxy. "For most advanced species in our galaxy, evolution occurred on worlds with stable environments," Trellix explained. His voice was soft and musical. "Consistent. Gravity, moderate temperatures, filtered radiation, predictable seasons." The hologram zoomed in to show a solar system. "This is your world, Earth." The image showed their blue planet. "In galactic terms, Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world." "Death world?" repeated John Miller with raised eyebrows. "Yes, a planet with conditions so extreme that most galactic citizens would die within minutes on its surface." Trellix listed points on his thin fingers. "High gravity, extreme temperature variations, toxic atmospheric components, dangerous radiation levels, volatile weather, aggressive predators, microscopic pathogens." Lavra exchanged glances with her officers. These were just normal Earth conditions to them. "This is why we need you," said Zillith. "The enemy we face, the Vorax, uses biological and environmental attacks that overwhelm our defenses. But you humans evolved to withstand conditions that already kill most species." The hologram changed to show insect-like creatures with multiple limbs. "The Vorax are a hive mind," explained Narration, the Dolphin medical director. "They inject nanites into victims converting them into new Vorax drones. Our immune systems cannot fight this process. And you think humans can? Asked Dr. Powell. We believe your aggressive immune systems and dense cellular structure might resist Vorax conversion longer. Yes. Narration looked at them with hope in his 4 eyes. You are natural soldiers by galactic standards. Daniel Hayes leaned forward. Show us what we're up against. The hologram shifted again, showing footage of a Vorax attack on a Dalthan colony. The officers watched in silence as the insect-like creatures swarmed buildings. They saw Dalthans, tried to fight back, but fall quickly. This colony had 15,000 inhabitants, said Narration quietly. Within 7 hours, all were either dead or converted. And how many planets have they taken? Asked Lavra. 5 Dalthan worlds so far, replied Zillith. They will reach the Dalthan homeworld in approximately 3 weeks. Laura stood up and walked to the viewport. She could feel the weight of the moment. Humanity had just learned they weren't alone in the universe, and their first interaction was a call to war. I need to speak with my crew, she said finally. The aliens withdrew. To guest quarters, and Lavra gathered her senior staff. Thoughts? She asked simply. It's insane, said Miller. We're being asked to fight a war for aliens we just met. But think of what we could learn, countered Dr. Powell. Their technology, their medicine. If what they're saying is true, said Clark, these Vorax could eventually find Earth. Better to fight them somewhere else. Nicole Bennett had been quiet until now. Did anyone else notice how they look at us? With fear? She hugged herself slightly. When I offered to shake Ambassador Zillith's hand, he flinched. They're afraid of us, agreed Hayes. They called Earth a death world. To them, we're the monsters. Lavra considered this. Maybe that's exactly what they need right now. Later, Lavra met again with Ambassador Zillith in her ready room. The Merivian sat gingerly in a chair that seemed too large for his frame. My crew and I have discussed your request, Lavra said. We will help the Dalthans. Relief showed clearly on Zillith's alien features. Thank you, Captain. The Council will provide coordinates and all the information we have on Vorax tactics. There's something I need to understand first, said Lavra. You're afraid of us, aren't you? Zillith hesitated, then nodded slowly. I must be honest, by our standards, you are terrifying. Your strength, your endurance, the casual way you tolerate conditions that would kill us. His large eyes studied her. When your security chief entered the room, his footsteps felt like small earthquakes to us. Your doctor's suggestion of a friendly handshake could have broken my arm. Lavra leaned back in her chair. And yet you came to us for help. Because sometimes, said Zillith quietly, the only thing that can stop a monster is a bigger monster. He looked directly at her. The question, Captain West, is whether your kind of monster protects or conquers. I guess you'll find out, Lavra replied. Set course for Dalthan space. The USS Defiant moved through space alongside the Merivian diplomatic vessel. 3 days had passed since Captain Lavra West agreed to help the aliens. The ship now traveled faster than light, using a strange technology the Merivians called Fold, space drive. In the ship's engineering section, John Miller studied the alien technology with wide eyes. The Merivian engineer Fricks stood beside him, explaining how the drive worked. So the ship doesn't actually move through space, said Miller, watching the glowing blue core. The drive folds space around us, bringing our destination closer. Correct, said Fricks. His thin blue fingers pointed to a display. Your human engines are powerful but primitive. With some adjustments, we could improve your weapon systems. Miller grinned. I'd like that. Elsewhere on the ship, Dr. Samantha Powell worked in the medical lab, studying Dalthan biology. Medical Director Narration sat across from her, all four of his pink arms carefully handling different tools. "Your species is fascinating," said Narration. "Your cellular structure is incredibly dense compared to ours, and your immune response so aggressive." Powell looked up from her microscope. "It's strange to think that what's normal for us is extraordinary to you." "That's why the Vorax target us," explained Narration. "Our bodies cannot fight their nanites, but yours ... He paused. "Your immune systems might actually attack their technology." In the ship's gym, Security Chief Kevin Clark led training exercises. For his team, they practiced fighting in various gravity settings. Ambassador Zelith and Science Officer Trellix watched from the doorway, their large eyes wide with shock. "They can lift 3 times their body weight," whispered Trellix. "And they're practicing to fight in even higher gravity. The Vorax won't." "Expect this," replied Zelith. "No species they've encountered can match this physical strength." Clark noticed the aliens watching. He walked over, his heavy footsteps making the Merivians step back involuntarily. "Would you like to join us?" he asked, trying to sound friendly. "Thank you, but no," said Zelith quickly. "We are observing only." On the bridge, Captain West and Lieutenant Hayes studied star maps with the Dalthan navigator Sorith. "The Vorax fleet is moving through this sector," said Sorith, pointing to a cluster of stars. "They've already taken these outer colonies." "What's their typical attack pattern?" asked Hayes. "They surround a planet, jam communications, then land ground forces," explained Sorith. "The ground forces spread the nanite infection, creating new Vorax drones from the population." Lavra frowned. "How many ships do they have?" "At least 50 in their main fleet. Each carries thousands of drones." Hayes whistled. "And we're bringing 1 ship." "The Dalthan Defense Fleet has 23 vessels remaining," said Sorith. "But they are no match for Vorax biotechnology." "We'll see about that," replied Lavra. The journey continued for several more days. The human crew and their alien guests slowly learned more about each other, though many cultural differences remained challenging. One day, the ships entered a nebula region. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the Merivian vessel. "Captain," called Communications Officer Nicole Bennett. "The Merivian ship is reporting radiation spikes. Their shields are failing." Lavra jumped to her feet. "Put me through to them." Ambassador Zillith's face appeared on screen. Behind him, Merivian crew members moved frantically. "Captain West, we have an emergency," said Zillith, his voice strained. "This nebula contains radiation our shields cannot fully block. We must change course immediately." Lara checked her own readings. The radiation levels were elevated, but not dangerous by human standards. "Our sensors show the radiation is within tolerable limits," she said. "For you, perhaps," replied Zillith. "For us, these levels are lethal with prolonged exposure." Before it could change course, a loud explosion rocked the Merivian ship. The video feed from their bridge cut out. "They've lost power," reported Hayes. "Their life support systems are failing." Lavra made a quick decision. "Prepare emergency teams." "We're boarding their vessel." Within minutes, human rescue teams in light environment suits crossed to the Merivian ship. They found chaos inside. The thin blue aliens struggled in the failing gravity systems. The air was growing thin as life support failed. Clark led the first team through the alien corridors. "We need to reach their engine room and restore power," he said into his comm. The rescue teams moved quickly through the ship, carrying injured Merivians to safety. The aliens watched in shock as the humans lifted them easily, moving through radiation zones that would kill a Merivian in minutes. Engineer Miller reached the engine room with his team. They found it filled with leaking coolant gas. "This gas is toxic to Merivians," explained Fricks weakly from the corridor. "You cannot enter without full protection." Miller checked his handheld sensor. The gas was irritating, but not immediately. Dangerous to humans. He took a deep breath. "Cover me," he said, and plunged into the green mist. For 15 minutes, Miller worked in the toxic environment, following Fritz's instructions through his comb. Finally, the lights flickered back on, and the ship's systems began to restart. Back on the Defiant, the Merivian crew received medical treatment. They stared at the humans with new understanding in their large eyes. "You entered radiation zones without protection," said Zillith to Lavra in the medical bay. "Your engineer breathed toxic gas to save our ship." "We did what was necessary," replied Lara simply. "Now you understand," said Medical Director Narration, who was helping treat his fellow aliens. "This is why we sought humans. What would kill us barely slows you down." As the ships prepared to continue their journey, they detected a small vessel drifting nearby. Its design was Dalphin, but it showed severe damage. "Life signs?" asked Lavra. "Faint readings," replied Dr. Powell from her medical station. "Several Dalphins, but they're weak." "It's a refugee ship," said Sorith, the Dalphin navigator. "From one of the fallen colonies." Lavra nodded to Clark. "Prepare a rescue team." The human team boarded the damaged refugee ship. They found 27 Dolphins hiding in the lower decks. Most were injured, and all were terrified. Among them was a small child, no larger than a human 5-year-old dot when the humans approached. The Dolphins pressed themselves against the walls in fear. "We're here to help," said Nicole Bennett, kneeling down to appear less threatening. "We?" came with the Galactic Council. The small Dolphin child stepped forward cautiously. "Are you the monsters?" the child asked in a small voice. Bennett smiled gently. "Some might call us that, but we're here to fight the real monsters." The child studied her face, then reached out one small pink hand. Bennett carefully took it, feeling how light and fragile. "It seemed." "I'm Ilori," said the child. "I'm Nicole," she replied, "and we're going to keep you safe." As the refugees were brought aboard the Defiant, Lavra met with Zillith and Narration in the conference room. The Dolphin refugees had brought new information. "The Vorax have accelerated their advance," said Narration grimly. "According to the refugee ship's data, they will reach the Dolphin homeworld in less than 2 weeks. Then we need to hurry," said Lavra. She looked at the star map. "How far are we from Dolphin space?" 3 days at maximum speed," replied Zilith. Lara nodded firmly. "Then we have 3 days to prepare for war." The USS Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Dolphin space. Captain Lara West stood on the bridge, her face grim as she looked at the main view screen. The sight before them was not encouraging. A massive blockade of Vorax ships surrounded the Dolphin homeworld. The insect-like vessels hung in space like a swarm of deadly hornets. Between them and the planet, a small group of Dolphin defense ships fought desperately to hold their position. 27 Vorax capital ships detected, reported Lieutenant Daniel Hayes from the tactical station, and hundreds of smaller vessels. Ambassador Zillith and Navigator Sorith stood beside Lavra, their alien faces showing clear distress. "We're too late," whispered Sorith. "They've already begun the assault." Lavra shook her head. "We're not too late yet." She pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill." Throughout the ship, crew members rushed to their posts. In engineering, John Miller and his team prepared the engines for combat maneuvers. In the medical bay, Dr. Powell set up emergency trauma centers. In the security section, Kevin Clark armed his teams with weapons modified with Merivian technology. "We're being hailed by the Dolphin Defense Fleet," said Communications Officer Nicole Bennett. On screen, ordered Lara Dot, the face of a Dolphin commander appeared. His pink skin was marked with stress lines, and 2 of his 4 arms were bandaged. "This is Commander Vareen of the Dalthan Defense Force," he said. "Identify yourselves." "I am Captain Laura West of the Earth vessel Defiant. We've come to help." Vareen's eyes widened in surprise. "The humans? The Council actually found you?" His voice contained both hope and disbelief. "One ship cannot change this battle, Captain." "Don't underestimate us," Lavra replied. "What's your situation?" "We've held the line for 6 days, but our ships are failing. Ground forces have already landed in the southern continent. The Vorax will break through to the capital city within hours." Lavra turned to her officers. "We need a plan now." In the conference room, the human officers gathered with the alien representatives. Tactical displays showed the battle situation. "The Vorax fleet is focused on these defensive positions," explained Hayes, pointing to the map. "They don't know. We're here yet. We could use that," said Clark. "Hit them from behind. Create confusion." "One ship against 27? asked Zilith. "Even your vessel cannot win those odds." Lara studied the tactical display. "We don't need to win. We need to break through." She looked up. "The Defiant will attack their flank, drawing their attention. While they focus on us, the fastest Dalthan ships can slip through to evacuate civilians from the capital." "And what about your ship?" asked Sorith. "You would be sacrificing yourselves." "We'll worry about that later," said Lavra. "Right now, saving lives is the priority." The plan was set quickly. The Defiant would engage the Vorax fleet, while 3 fast Dalthan ships would make a run for the planet Dot as the human crew prepared for battle. Science Officer Trollocs approached Dr. Powell in the medical bay. "I have been studying your species." "Since we met," he said, his thin blue fingers holding a datapad, "I wish to document human capabilities during this combat. It may help future defense strategies." Powell nodded while checking emergency supplies. "Just stay out of the way when casualties come in." The Defiant moved silently toward the Vorax fleet, its advanced stealth systems keeping it hidden until the last moment. On the bridge, Lavra gave the final orders. "Fire all weapons on my mark," she said, her voice steady. "Target their command. Vessels." Hayes nodded at his tactical console. "Weapons locked. Ready on your command." Lavra took a deep breath. "Fire." The Defiant's weapons blazed to life, sending powerful energy beams into the nearest Vorax vessels. The surprise attack caught 3 enemy ships unprepared, causing significant damage. Immediately, the Vorax fleet responded, turning many of their ships toward this new threat. Just as Lavra had hoped, their attention shifted away from the planet. "The Dalthan rescue ships are making their run," reported Bennett. "Keep firing," ordered Lavra. "Don't let them regroup." The battle quickly intensified. The Defiant moved with surprising speed for its size, evading enemy fire while continuing its attack. But the Vorax numbers were overwhelming. Soon, hits began. Connecting with the human ship, a massive blast rocked the bridge. Sparks flew from a damaged console, and warning alarms blared. "Hull breach on Deck 4, shouted Hayes. "Emergency force fields engaged." In the damaged section, Security Chief Clark led his team to secure the area. The breach had exposed part of the deck to the vacuum of space. 2 crew members were trapped beyond the emergency force field. Without hesitation, Clark overrode the safety protocols and entered the depressurized section. He moved quickly through the airless corridor, his lungs burning as he held his breath. He reached the trapped crew members and dragged them back to safety. When the section was resealed and repressurized, Dr. Powell rushed in with a medical. "Team, you were in vacuum for nearly 2 minutes," she said, checking Clark's vital signs. "You should be dead." Clark coughed harshly. "Didn't have time to die," he muttered. "Had a job to do." From the doorway, Trollocs watched with his datapad, recording everything with wide, disbelieving eyes. The battle continued for hours. The Defiant took heavy damage but kept fighting. In engineering, Miller and his team worked desperately to keep systems online. "The main power coupling is failing," reported a technician. "We can't reach it without shutting down the shields." "We can't shut down shields in the middle of a battle," Miller replied. He looked at the damage report and made a quick decision. "I'll go manually reroute power through the secondary systems." The secondary systems were located in a section exposed to dangerous radiation from the damaged engines. Miller grabbed a basic radiation suit and hurried to the area. "That suit won't provide full protection," warned Fricks, the Merivian engineer. "The radiation levels are too high." "It'll have to do," replied Miller. "Otherwise, we lose the ship." For 20 minutes, Miller worked in the radiation-flooded compartment, manually rewiring critical systems. When he finally emerged, his face was pale and his hands shook, but the power systems were stable again. On the bridge, Lavra received the news that the Dolphin rescue ships had successfully reached the planet. "They've begun evacuation of the capital city," reported Bennett. "But we've got another problem. 3 Vorax ships are breaking through to the planet." Lavra looked at the tactical display. The Defiant had drawn away many enemy ships, but not all of them. "Can we intercept?" she asked. Hayes shook his head. "Not without abandoning our current position. If we move, the ships we're holding back will follow us to the planet." Lavra considered their options. Open a channel to Commander Varine. The Dolphin. Commander appeared on screen. His ship looked damaged, but it was still fighting. "Captain West, your strategy bought us time," he said. "The evacuation has begun. But the Vorax ground forces are overwhelming our defenses." "We need to get troops on the ground," said Lavra. "Can your remaining ships hold the line without us?" Varine nodded. "Not for long, but yes." Lavra turned to Clark, who had returned to the bridge. "Prepare a strike team. We're going to the surface." Within 30 minutes, a human strike team boarded a shuttle. Lavra led the mission herself, along with Clark, Bennett, and a dozen security personnel. Dr. Powell insisted on joining them with medical supplies. "The Vorax central control node must be on the surface," explained Lara as the shuttle launched. "If we can destroy it, we might disrupt their entire operation." As the shuttle entered the planet's atmosphere, they saw the beautiful Dolphin world below them. Cities with tall, crystal towers spread across green landscapes. Now those landscapes were marked by the dark stains of Vorax landing sites. "It's so peaceful looking," said Bennett. "Hard to believe it's a war zone." "That's why we're here," replied Lara. "To keep it peaceful." The shuttle landed near the Dolphin capital city. As the humans stepped out onto the alien world, they immediately noticed the difference. The gravity was lighter, the air sweeter. "This is what they call a normal world," said Clark, looking around. "Feels like we're on the moon." "To them, Earth would be a nightmare," replied Powell Doc in the distance. They could see Vorax forces advancing toward the city. The insect-like creatures moved in perfect coordination, their multiple limbs carrying weapons, unlike anything the humans had seen before. "Commander, Varine's forces met them at the landing site." The Dolphin soldiers stared at the humans with a mixture of fear and hope. "Welcome to Delta," said a tall, pink-skinned officer. "I am Ground Commander Lyrics. We didn't believe the stories about humans until now." Lavra stepped forward. "We're here to help stop the Vorax. What's the situation?" "The evacuation continues, but the Vorax advance faster than we can retreat," explained Lyrics. "They've established a central node in the crater from their initial landing. From there, they coordinate all forces." "Then that's our target," said Lavra. "Lead the way." The human strike team moved quickly through the outskirts of the Dolphin capital city. In the lighter gravity, they could run faster and jump higher than on Earth. Captain Lavra West led from the front. with Security Chief Kevin Clark close behind. The Dolphin soldiers struggled to keep pace with the humans. "The central node is 2 miles ahead," said Ground Commander Lyrics, pointing toward a smoking crater. "The Vorax established it where their first ship crashed." Lavra examined the area through binoculars. "Why there specifically?" "The crash released radiation that is harmful to us," explained Lyrics. "No Dolphin can approach within half a mile without protective gear. Even then, exposure must be brief." Clark checked his radiation meter. "Readings are elevated, but within tolerable limits for humans." "Tolerable for you is lethal for us," said Lyrics with wonder in his voice. The team reached a ridge overlooking the Vorax position. Below them, hundreds of the insect-like creatures moved around the crater. In the center stood a tall, pulsing structure that looked like a mix of technology and organic material. "That's the central node," said Lyrics. "It coordinates all Vorax activities on the planet. Their drones cannot function independently without it." Lavra turned to Dr. Powell. "Any ideas how to shut it down?" Powell had been studying the Vorax biology data provided by the Dolphins. "Their hive mind works through a biological network. If we could introduce a virus into the system, it might disrupt their connection." "A virus?" asked Bennett. "Like a computer virus?" "More like a biological one," explained Powell. "Something that affects their communication pathways." Lyrics's eyes widened. "Our scientists were working on something similar before the invasion." "The research facility is in the city center." Lavra made a quick decision. "Bennett, you and Powell go with Lyrics to the research facility. Clark and I will lead a diversion to keep the Vorax busy." The team split up. Lavra, Clark, and 6 human security officers moved toward the Vorax perimeter. They carried weapons modified with Merivian technology to be more effective against the alien creatures. "Remember, these things are part of a hive mind," said Lavra. "They coordinate perfectly, but they might not adapt well to the unexpected." The humans approached from different directions. The Vorax sentries detected them immediately. The insect-like creatures turned as one, their multiple limbs raising weapons. "Now!" shouted Laura Dot. The humans opened fire from multiple positions. The modified weapons sent pulses of energy that disrupted the Vorax nervous systems. Several creatures fell, their limbs twitching. The response was immediate. Hundreds of Vorax drones moved toward the humans with terrifying coordination. They fired biological projectiles that burst into clouds of nanites. "Don't let that stuff touch you," warned Clark, dodging the clouds. Despite the warning, one of the security officers was hit. The nanites began to spread across his arm, turning his skin gray. He screamed in pain. Clark rushed to him, pulling out a knife. Without hesitation, he cut away the affected tissue. The officer groaned, but remained conscious. "Medic," Clark called, applying a pressure bandage to the wound. Lavra watched in amazement as the nanites that had fallen on the ground withered and died. "They can't survive in this environment," she realized. "Our natural defenses are killing them." Meanwhile, Bennett, Powell, and Lyrics reached the research facility. Inside, they found 2 Dolphin scientists hiding in a secure lab. "We heard the evacuation order," said one scientist, "but we couldn't leave our work." "Your virus research," said Lyrics. "Is it complete?" The scientists looked at each other. "Theoretically, yes, but we never had a chance to test it." Powell stepped forward. "Show me." The scientists explained their work. They had developed a biological agent that could disrupt the Vorax neural network, but it had to be delivered directly to the central node. "If it works, it will sever the connection between the node and the drones," explained the scientist. "The Vorax will become disorganized, unable to function as a collective." Powell studied the formula. This could work. but we need to get it to the node. Back at the Vorax perimeter, Lavra and her team were fighting desperately. They had drawn significant numbers of drones away from the node, but they were now surrounded. The humans fought with a ferocity that seemed to confuse the Vorax. Despite injuries, the human soldiers continued to fight. Laura's comm unit crackled. "Captain, we have the virus," said Bennett's voice. "But it must be delivered directly to the node's central processor." "Can you get to our position?" asked Lavra. "Negative. Too many Vorax between us and you." Lavra looked at the central node. Still several hundred yards away through Vorax-controlled territory. "Send us the formula. We'll find a way." Powell transmitted the data to Laura's pad. "It needs to be injected into the fluid chambers at the base of the node. The delivery system is in my pack." Lavra turned to Clark. "I need volunteers for a final push." "Count me in," said Clark without hesitation. The remaining security officers nodded their agreement. They prepared for a desperate charge. Using the debris as cover, they would sprint for the node while drawing enemy fire. Just then, Laura's comm unit activated again. "Captain, this is Miller." "Miller? You're supposed to." "Be on the Defiant. Change of plans," replied the engineer. "I borrowed a shuttle. Look up." Lavra looked skyward to see a small shuttle diving toward their position. It fired precise shots at the Vorax forces, creating a path toward the node. "I'll keep them busy," said Miller. "You get to that node." The shuttle swooped low, drawing. Vorax fire. Lavra and Clark seized the opportunity and ran toward the central node. The lighter gravity allowed them to move with incredible speed, leaping over obstacles. As they reached the base of the node, Vorax drones converged on them from all sides. Clark fought them off while Laura prepared the delivery system. "I need 2 minutes," she said, working quickly with Powell's instructions. "You've got one," replied Clark. Firing at approaching drones. Laura found the fluid chambers just as Powell had described. She prepared to inject the virus when a massive Vorax creature appeared larger than the others, with a more developed central nervous system. "That must be the controller," said Clark, turning his weapon toward it. Before he could fire, the creature launched a barrage of nanite projectiles. One struck Clark in the chest, spreading rapidly across his body. He fell to his knees, but continued firing. "Finish it," he gasped to Lavra. Laura injected the virus into the chamber. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the fluid began to change color, spreading through the node systems. The effect was immediate. The Vorax drones began to twitch and move erratically. Some fell to the ground while others wandered aimlessly. The coordinated attack collapsed into chaos. Laura rushed to Clark's side. The nanites had spread across most of his body, but remarkably, they were slowing down. "They can't convert you," she realized. "Your immune system is fighting back." Miller landed the shuttle nearby. Together with Laura, he carried Clark aboard. As they lifted off, they saw the Vorax forces in complete disarray across the battlefield in orbit. The Vorax fleet showed the same symptoms. Without the central node's coordination, their perfect formation fell apart. The Dolphin ships, along with the Defiant, pressed their advantage. 2 days later, Lavra stood in the Dolphin capital's central plaza. The evacuation had been reversed as people returned to their homes. The Vorax had retreated from the planet, the remaining ships fleeing the system. Ambassador Zillith, Commander Varine, and the Dolphin leaders gathered for a formal ceremony. Clark sat in a medical chair, still recovering but alive. Miller and Powell stood nearby, along with Bennett and the surviving human crew. "The people of Daltha owe you a debt we can never repay," said the Dolphin High Chancellor. "You have saved our world and possibly the galaxy." Zillith stepped forward. "When we first sought the humans, Many on the council feared bringing Deathworlders into our galactic community. They worried these powerful beings might be conquerors. He looked at Lavra and her crew. Instead, we found protectors. Lavra shook her head. We just did what anyone would do when they hear a call for help. Perhaps, said Zillith, but few could have done what you did. As the ceremony concluded, a small dolphin child approached the humans. It was Elori, the refugee they had rescued. She looked up at Bennett with large eyes. Are you still monsters? She asked innocently. Bennett smiled and knelt down to the child's level. What do you think? Elori considered this and shook her head. I think you're heroes. Behind them, the sun set on the dolphin capital, its light reflecting off the crystal. Towers. In orbit, the Defiant prepared for its journey home, carrying news of new allies and a wider, more complex galaxy than humanity had ever imagined. And somewhere in that galaxy, the story spread of the terrifying Deathworlders, who came not to conquer, but to save.